and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Keytime Sports on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram. Please like, share, and subscribe on Key City Sports on Instagram. And also go and follow my page on millions.co, the key at Keywond Dowell. We also have merch out on that platform, millions.co. So, college football week 0 is in the books. I'm going to tell you that this game between the Iowa State Cyclones and the Kansas State Wildcats, was an appetizer for what we are going to be seeing this coming Saturday. Now, one thing I can say is about this game, in the first half, it was pretty much offense was non-existent. Non-existent. There was quite a few times on third down for both teams where they couldn't convert, and they didn't. But about time halftime came, and after halftime, it seemed like both of these teams kind of went on a scoring rampage because you had 2 touchdowns. Well, yeah, 3 touchdowns from Iowa from Iowa State, from the Iowa State Cyclones, and you had 2 touchdowns from the Kansas State Wildcats. Also, one thing that I said but going into this game was I wasn't as confident in the KSU defense, and you saw it on display. You saw it on display. You can even see now the quarterback for Iowa State. He didn't have a good game. 14 of 28, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and Avery Johnson for KSU, he had an okay game. 21 of 30, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And then you look at the rushing. The rushing was pretty much the same when it comes to the Iowa State Cyclones and the Wildcats. 130 for the Cyclones, 110 for the Wildcats. Receiving, you see receiving 273 for the Wildcats, 183 for the Cyclones. Now, everybody, and I do mean everybody, noticed that both teams had a severe case of fumbleitis. Fumbleitis. That's a new word that I'm bringing to everybody on this channel right here. We got turnoverlitis and turnoverlitis and fumbleitis, and both of these teams had a severe case of each one of them. Now, Iowa State, they had 2 turnovers, and also Kansas State also had 2 turnovers. Now, the weather in this game, the weather in Ireland Saturday was a little rainy, so the ball was a little bit slippery, and it got so bad during the game you couldn't even see the yard markers or the sideline markers. So, all in all, I can say that this game was a very entertaining game after halftime. And as you can see, when we get to the defenses, Kansas State, you have got to find you some defense. You do. Because there were so many times where the Kansas State defense was in 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 7, or they even gave up. I'm going to tell you, there were 5 instances in this game where Kansas State gave up a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, and a 3rd and 13. Also, not to mention, it was a 3rd and 17 that they gave up in the 3rd quarter. So that's 5. That's 5 instances where the defense failed to deliver for the Kansas State Wildcats. And you can see, as far as defensively, Here it is, Iowa State defense, and here is the Kansas State defense. You can see everybody made at least one tackle in the game. One tackle for Iowa State. Everybody at least made one tackle, and at least they made one tackle for Kansas State. Now, there's one thing that I can say is everybody was saying that this game had playoff implications, and it does. Can you believe that? We already talking about college football playoff, not even a week into the regular season of college football. We already talking about the college football playoff. Kansas is projected to be is projected to win the conference, but they got a monkey wrench in they bucket right now with this loss to Iowa State. Now Iowa State did this was they were 3 point underdogs, so it's not really a surprise that they won. But I did say on Friday that I would not be surprised if this was an upset because I kept on saying that I'm not too confident in Kansas State. And even when I made my prediction, I was like, I'm going to go with Kansas State because I said I wasn't sure what Iowa State was going to do. But Kansas State, one thing I can say, Kansas State, they pretty much let this game go. And I'm just going to tell you, third down efficiency, nobody was very efficient in this game. Third down efficiency for the Cyclones was 3 of 14. The efficiency for the Kansas State Wildcats, third down efficiency 5 of 13. Fourth down efficiency, and this is where basically Iowa won the game. Fourth down efficiency, they were 3 for 3. KSU was 1 of 4. That if you cannot convert on fourth down in a game, you are going to lose, let alone if you can't convert on third down. But in total, you were 6 of 17 on third and fourth down, KSU. And Iowa State, you wasn't better. You was 6 of 17 on third and fourth down. This game, outside of those couple of touchdowns in the second half, this game was pretty much straight garbage for the first 30 minutes of the game. But one thing I can say is that it's gonna be a lot of shakeup in the rankings because you got number 22 just beat number 17. And also, coming this Saturday, you have most of the top 25 teams playing. So it is going to be a lot of movement coming out of the rankings after we get done with Labor Day weekend. It's going to be a lot of movement. So all in all, it was a very interesting game. Thank you to Ireland. Thank you to everybody that tuned in, watched. Ireland, that is a good fan base. That is a good fan base when it comes to football. And next year, it'll be TCU and North Carolina in Ireland to start off the 2026 college football season. So that's all I got to say for the Cyclones and the Wildcats. The next game I am going to cover is one of the games that nobody was really looking at, but I looked at it all. I looked at every game in its entirety. UNLV, like I said, I was surprised that UNLV had trouble with Idaho State. But like I said, the first game, you really can't judge a team off of just one game, off of the first game in the regular season. And plus, UNLV head coach Dan Mullen, I already knew that Dan Mullen, he wasn't going to have the type of, playbook that another coach would have when it comes to their first ever game at a new college. So UNLV 15-21 Anthony Calandria 15-21, 195 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Jordan Cook 30 of 50, 380 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Like I said, severe case of turnover-litis. That's why I picked UNLV to win this game. Michael Salivko, 1 for 1, 15 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Jackson Shamar, 0 of 1, 0 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. So this, I'm not surprised by this game because UNLV they were supposed to win this game. Now I am surprised that it came down to the final seconds. I am surprised by that because the point spread was 27 for UNLV. But like I said, first game, you don't really know how this team looks. You don't know how any team looks in the first couple of weeks of the season, whether it's college or pro. You don't know. That's why I always say it takes a good 5 to 6 weeks to know what kind of team you have. Or, as I like to say, 5 to 6 games. Now, UNLV, they not going anywhere this year. They was lucky to be in the position they were in last year when it comes to Boise State. Now, Boise State, they 25th. I expect Boise State to drop out. This might be the last time we ever talk about Boise State this season being ranked. But as far as UNLV, when it comes to rushing, they cracked over 300 yards rushing on the ground. Now, I'm not going to give UNLV credit because Idaho State, they done had a bad run defense over the past 4 years. Over the past 4 years, they've had a bad run defense. And when it comes to UNLV receiving, cracked over 200 yards, another plus. When you have a running game that can crack over 300 yards and a passing game that cracks over 200, you're pretty much going to win either way. You have a dominant passing game and a dominant defense. So now, Idaho State, their wide receiving core had 395 yards. I expect this to be a blowout, but it turned into a shootout, offensive shootout. That's what it did. And also, both teams, they fumbled the ball once. Defensively, UNLV, I ain't going to say that UNLV defense came to play because when both teams allow their opponent to score over 30 points, I have that as a shootout. I have that as an offensive shootout because there's no defense at all. When I think of a defensive struggle, I think of 2017 or 24-27, somewhere in the high 20s in the lower high 20s. But this was in the high to low 30s. So this is an offensive shootout. So UNLV, they got their first win. UNLV, they have a tough schedule already. I already done told y'all that UNLV got a tough schedule. So congratulations on Dan Mullen getting his first win as UNLV's head coach. And the next game I'm going to cover is the Kansas Jayhawks and Fresno State, the Bulldogs. Now, Kansas State, I said that this game was going to be a blowout, and I'm going to say this. I thought I thought Kansas was going to put up 40 points. I really thought that. I really did. So now we see the quarterbacks. They had a good game. E.J. Warner, 18 of 29, 179 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, very critical interceptions. They had a severe case of turnover-litis, and let's see, did anybody have fumble-litis on the Fresno State Bulldogs? Yes, they did. Jordan Lalu had a fumble. Severe case of turnover-litis and fumble-litis. Y'all are going to hear them words a lot this season. Remember, turnover-litis and fumble-litis. So now back to what I was saying. Kansas Jayhawks, Jalen Daniels, 18 of 20, 176 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That was a perfect game for him. The rushing attack for the Jayhawks cracked over 200 yards. And Fresno State, they rushing, it only cracked 37 yards. I mean, it was just putrid. It was just god awful. The way Fresno State, they had everybody thinking that this game was, going to be a respectable loss, but it ended up becoming a beatdown. Also, Fresno State receiving. Look at this. It seemed like the receiving, it was pretty much the same. You had 176 yards for the Jayhawks, and then you had 179 yards for the Fresno State Bulldogs. Now, fumble, Kansas, they fumbled, Fresno State fumbled. But one thing that I can say is, do we expect Fresno State to be in the rankings anytime this season? No, we don't. Kansas, they might have an outside chance at getting into the top 25. I could see Kansas getting into the top 25 around, I'm going to say week 5 or week 6, or possibly sooner than that. But like I said, week 0 is just an appetizer for what is going to happen in week 1. Now let me get to the defense. Both defenses, Kansas, they played up to par. Everybody on Kansas defense had at least one tackle, with the exception of 3 players: DJ Withers, Justice Finkley, and Jaleel Hurley. And for the Fresno State Bulldogs defense, everybody had at least one tackle. Now, this game, I was expecting this and the UNLV game to be one-sided. Now, UNLV game, it wasn't one-sided. Kansas game was. One thing about Kansas, they have a top 50 offense in college football. Coming into the season, Kansas, their offense is projected to be top 45. Yeah, top 45. And Fresno State, they are just going to fall by the wayside. So one thing about Fresno State, we didn't even have them on our radar. We didn't. We didn't have them on our radar. Kansas Jayhawks, we have to see what y'all are made of. I can't just judge you off of one game. And anybody that is going to judge a football team off of one game, you sound crazy if you're going to do that. You sound crazy. But there are a lot of people that's just going to judge this team or that team off of one game. That's all. But back to what I was saying, the next game I'm going to cover is Sam Houston and Western Kentucky. This game was on the verge of being another blowout. And you can see Hunter Watson, 19 of 30, 209 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Maverick McLover, 33 of 51, 401 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. That's almost a perfect game in my eyes. Sam Houston, their rushing attack, 173 yards. Western Kentucky rushing attack, 105 yards. Now, both of these teams, they are in a conference, a group of 5 conference. So I am not going to touch on these teams no more after this. After this show, you won't hear me say Sam Houston. You won't hear me say Western Kentucky no more. You won't. So as far as receiving, Sam Houston, 209 yards receiving. Western Kentucky, 400 yards receiving. Fumbles. Everybody, and I do mean this, everybody that played college football on Saturday had a severe case of fumbleitis and turnover-litis. You can see it because you can see with these statistics, two fumbles, and also Western Kentucky had two fumbles. Now, even though they didn't lose the ball, but when it comes to fumbling, that can hurt an offense, and turnovers, it always hurts a team. It always hurts a team. So, last thing I want to say about Sam Houston and Western Kentucky is, what else did we expect? I mean, these both of these teams are in Conference USA. Conference USA, they don't get much televised games. After one thing, they can't even do that. And also, they don't have the type of, eyeballs that will be faced on when it comes to playing a game like this. I mean, Sam Houston and Western Kentucky, it was a good game. All my betting men and women out there, I hope that you didn't place your money on this game or any other game outside of that Ireland game because it was not worth it. It wasn't. Now the last game I'm going to cover is Stanford and Hawaii. Now this was an entertaining game too. Stanford had a chance. Stanford had a chance at winning this game. And this is why I say being a head coach in football is not hard. It's not hard because Stanford, they should have won this game. Now, I'm going to say this. If I'm the Stanford coaching staff this morning, I'm saying to myself, we lost the game on my decision making. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, it's a sequence. Late in the fourth quarter, Stanford has the ball with about, I'm going to say 3 minutes, 15 seconds, possibly 2 minutes, 40 seconds, somewhere right in there. And they are down on, I'm going to say, the 37-yard line. So a 37-yard line, you got a 7-point lead. A 7-point lead at the 37-yard line, and everything is in your favor. The probability of you winning is 85% plus right now. And then all of a sudden, Stanford, they start to throw the ball on second down. Then they throw the ball on third down. Then they try and kick a field goal. They miss the field goal. So now you done went from winning the game automatically to playing for overtime, which they did because Hawaii went down, scored a touchdown, put the game in overtime, and then they won. Then Hawaii won the game in overtime. So Stanford, your coaching staff, y'all need to think about what it is, what kind of formation that y'all are in, because you shouldn't have threw the ball. There is one thing that I always say: if my opponent doesn't have any more timeouts and I have the ball and it's gonna be a running clock, just run the ball and run the clock out. But you got Stanford that wanted to get a first down, and they ended up passing the ball on that second down play and didn't run no time off. They didn't run no time off. So that's the one thing that hurt Stanford in this situation. Hawaii, Makai Ajado, 27 of 39, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Then you got Ben Gramberson, 15 of 30, 109 yards, Zero touchdowns, one interception. Stanford, rushing attack, cracked over 100 yards. Hawaii, they only had 96 yards. Stanford, as far as wide receiver corps, 109 yards. Hawaii, 210 yards with their wide receiver corps. It seemed like everything that Stanford was doing, the ratio between Stanford and Hawaii, it seemed like it was 2-1 the entire game. But the most important stat is the scoreboard. And Stanford, they ended up losing. They ended up losing because of some clock management. Clock management, yeah. Hawaii, I don't expect them, to have a strong team this season, but hey, a win is a win. Even if you didn't deserve to win, and I mean Hawaii, they didn't because Hawaii was late fourth quarter. Hawaii was down in the dumps. They should have lost this game, and this is why I always say the first week I don't too much bet on any of these games right here. Well, college football week 0, I don't bet on any of them games. I don't. I got to wait until week 2, week 3, and then I'll start betting. But all in all, very entertaining game. College football is back. College, this is all of this was just an appetizer for Saturday. Now, Saturday, I can't wait. I'm gonna be out and about Saturday, so if anybody do be on the lookout for me after the Ohio State Texas game, and be on the lookout for me. It's quite a few games that I'm gonna do Saturday, cover Saturday. So now, one thing that I can say is that is my reaction from for college football week 0. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports on YouTube. Also, Key City Sports on Instagram, and also follow my page on millions.co. We also are rolling out merch over there, merchandise on millions.co. The key at Keywond Dowell, millions.co. We are rolling out merch on there right now. And pretty much that merchandise has been up since the weekend. So anybody that's interested in buying a shirt, buying a hoodie, go on millions.co, look up the key at Keywond Dowell, and you will see my merchandise. One last thing, everybody, remember, the key is always on time.